السلام Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khairan for being here on time. And sorry for the technical difficulty with the projector. Inshallah, we're going to start. We have our dear guest, Dr. Hassan Elwan, all the way from Orange County. And he was going to bring up his bio, but he said no. So, Jazakumullah khairan for being here. Jazakumullah khairan for being here, inshallah. Without further ado, Dr. Hassan, inshallah.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أفضل المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. It's my honor and my pleasure to be with all of you today. And I'm really happy to see old friends, right, and new friends, inshallah. And I'm so pleased to see the type of community you have, and that even the nature, it's a very blessed place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep you safe. May Allah always subhanahu wa ta'ala keep our hearts united. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides us with internal peace, even if there is no external peace. And this is the topic of the lecture that we have today, right? So before I start, I would say one thing. They say علم المنافق في لسانه وعلم المؤمن في عمله. The knowledge of a hypocrite is on his tongue, but the knowledge of a believer is in his action. Al-ilm, knowledge, knowing about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing about Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is wonderful, is great. Ilm is it's like almost food. But ilm, what is it sought for is actions. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open unto us from knowledge that which is beneficial and enable us, more importantly, to act on what we know and what we speak about, inshallah. And I make dua, Allahumma aftah masami' qalbi li dhikrik wajlu an basiratihi hatta yara qurbak. Ya Allah, please lift the block, what's blocking the hearing of my heart, so that it can hear your remembrance. And remove the veil from the sight of my heart, so it can witness your nearness. Right? So with that, inshallah, the topic that we kept changing the topic. In the beginning, I had a very dear topic to my heart. I wanted to speak about when the righteous slip, right, which is a very interesting topic. But this topic I see is very relevant to the times we live in, right? Because sometimes, as you can see the title, spirituality in the midst of chaos, dealing with anxiety, stress, fear. Sometimes we cannot control the external environment. And we live in one of those times things are very turbulent. When it comes to the national level, international level, sometimes even personal level, relationships, right? Sometimes I cannot control the storm. So the main thing that I wanted to discuss today is the following. When we say peace, many people, that's what they want. Many married couple, when they come for counseling, they say, brothers especially, they say, Akhi, all what I want is peace at home. I just want peace, salam. I want this existence of salam in my life. Peace, serenity is not the freedom from a storm, but it's the ability to have tranquility, sakina, peace in the midst of a storm. I might not be able to control external factors. Things might be hectic outside. Notice the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, turbulent things are happening, but when you look to him, his heart is at peace. No matter what's going on, it's in the outside. But I have this place inside where I always feel peace and serenity no matter what's happening outside. How do we do this? This is the question. When we live in a time full of stress, there is many things that stress us. From the elections to what's happening in Palestine, to maybe our personal stresses, to work, to the economy, to the finances, to many stressors. And I noticed many of our community members, at least in Orange County, we face a lot of anxiety. There is a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. What is the medication for this, the spiritual medication for anxiety? How can I have peace when things are turbulent around me? And that's what I want to discuss. So I would start with a dua the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam say, and then we'll go to the presentation. He sallallahu alayhi wasallam said a dua that we all know, but I want you to contemplate on the meaning of it. When he says, after salah, finishes salah, and he says what? Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. Right? Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. Tabarakta ya dal jalali wal ikram. Ya Allah, you are as-salam. And from you is salam. The word peace in Arabic language is what? Salam, right? As-salam is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first thing, I cannot be at peace if I'm not close to the source of peace. The only way I achieve peace is if I'm close to as-salam. And that's what this dua is saying. Allah, you're the source of peace. Peace comes from you. I cannot be at peace, I cannot give peace if I'm disconnected, if I'm veiled from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why we are disturbed from inside. I'm by myself. I'm with my abilities and with other people. My connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is severed. So as-salam, what is the meaning of salam in Arabic language? We know it as the greetings, as-salamu alaykum. Yes, one of the meanings is peace. But salam has a much deeper meaning. What is the deeper meaning of salam? Go to Ismillah salam. When you say Allah's salam, what does that mean? The source of peace, right? But salam has a very different meaning, very powerful meaning. As-salam. You know that salam has to do with freedom? Have you ever thought about that? If I tell you Arabic language, the word freedom. Freedom is such a big value in the West, right? When you look to the Quran, freedom is hurriya. You don't find this word much except for freeing slaves. But freedom in Arabic language has a very different meaning than in the secular word. As-salam. What does as-salam mean? Allah's salam. It means the following. الذي سلمت ذاته عن كل عيب وسلمت أوصافه عن كل نقص فسلمت أفعاله عن كل شر. Subhanallah. Now, what does that mean? Allah is the one that His character or His that, right, is free from any defects. And His attributes is free from any deficiency. And therefore, all His actions are free from any evil. What does that mean? Salam in the world happens when my heart is salim. Salam has to do with what? Qalbun salim. It's not only a heart at peace, a heart that is free from defects. The reason we're not at peace is if my heart has defects in it. Like what? Arrogance. Like what? Ostentation. Like what? Greed. Those defects from inside, they're in my heart. They're going to cause me to say things, do things that are not going to bring peace to the world. If we want peace in our environment, it starts where? With our character. Salam is not by making a peace treaty. No. If we want true peace in our community, the less defects I have in my heart, the more pure my heart is, the more not only I am going to be at peace, but I will radiate peace. Anything I tell you, even if you're angry and upset at me and you say negative, you'll always be safe. You'll always be safe with me. There is always peace because I don't have those defects. So there is a relationship between our inner state and peace. And it has to do with freedom. Freedom from an Islamic perspective is not freedom of the nafs. The West speaks about, I want to be free. What does that mean? I want to be free to eat whatever, to do whatever, right? Basically, whenever I have a lust, I'm free, I can do it. Whenever I do whatever I want. From an Islamic perspective, I want my heart to be free from my ego. What is a free heart? A free heart is a heart when you say it's time for salah, yes, let's pray. It's time for qiyam, let's pray. It's time to give charity, let's give. There is no greed, hold back. No, let's give. I want that. I want this heart that does not fight me. It's at peace with Allah's command. That is salam. So salam, peace, is an inner state. That has nothing to do with the difficulties in the outside world. How do we do this? How do we combat anxiety? This is what I want to be speaking in a more practical way today, inshallah. This is what we want to achieve. That's the type. So going through the presentation, I will say the following. I'll start with this example. Like you know this example, Ibn Taymiyyah, this scholar, when they threw him in prison. See, sometimes you face tyrant rulers, sometimes you can't control it, oppressors. He's saying that which is good. He's a scholar, even if you disagree with him. But they ended up throwing him in prison. When they throw him in prison, that's very bad, that's very negative, it's a prison. When he entered prison, what did he say? ما يفعل أعدائي بي جنتي في صدري أينما ذهبت فهي معي. What can my enemy do to me? My paradise my heaven, my garden is inside my chest. Wherever I go, it is with me. And then he says something really powerful. He says, المأسور من أسر قلبه المحبوس من حبس هواه. A true prisoner is not the one in prison. A true prisoner is the one that his heart is imprisoned, chained by his desires. It cannot do good things. We all know that spending charity is good. Why can't I do it? We all know that praying is good. Why can't I do it? We all know good character is good. Not getting angry so often. Why can't I do it? I'm chained. Something is pulling me down. That is the one that's imprisoned. We get imprisoned from inside before outside. My enemies might overpower me in the terms of my outward, but I must not let anybody enslave my heart. You can enslave me you can make me say whatever you want by torture and what have you, but my heart is always free. Nobody can touch my heart. The only person that touches my heart is me. I have absolute freedom to do whatever. There is an inner kingdom that I'm the king of, I'm responsible for. And if I connect with Allah, I have peace inside. This is what we want. We want that state. I want to have a little bit of this, like this man. He's at peace wherever he goes. You throw him in prison, and this is what he said. His student Ibn al-Qayyim used to say, we go to visit Ibn Taymiyyah just to relieve him. And say, we go, we find him in such peace, such happiness, such that we come out and our iman is elevated. So, and while he's in prison, I want that. How can I achieve that? That's the question, right? And Ibn al-Qayyim says something for us that is also very powerful. And that statement can, by the way, be a khutbah by itself. You know, if I tell you what is amazing for you, what amazes you? You know, what goes, wow, that's amazing. Ibn al-Qayyim says the following: ليس العجب من قلب صحيح واقف في الخدمة، ولكن العجب كل العجب من قلب جريح تعتوره الأشغال وهو واقف في الخدمة لا يتغير. What does that mean? He said, I'm not amazed at a person who, while things are going well, he's standing, praying and doing good things. That's good. You know, having people that worship Allah and pray and give charity and the time of ease, that's really good, but that's not amazing. You know what's amazing? A heart that is injured, wounded. Life is not, maybe has a problem at home. Maybe my spouse is not good to me. Maybe financially I'm in ruins. Things are coming at it left and right and it's bleeding. It is exhausted, it's tired, and in its state, it stands and worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is amazing. Why is that important? I want you to look at this and we'll speak more about this. Calamities, afflictions, we don't like them, right? Nobody wants calamities and affliction, and we always want peace. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Mulk, تبارك الذي بيده الملك وهو على كل شيء قدير الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم. What's the word after that? أيكم أحسن عملا. Blessed be the one whose in his hands is the dominion. Allah is al-Malik. Everything is under his control. Nothing happens haphazardly. ما شاء الله كان وما لم يشاء لم يكن. As I always say, Allah's in control. He, in his hand, he controls everything. He's the one that created opposites. Al-Mawt, he's the one that created death and life. Laughter and crying. He's the one that created ease and hardship. Why, Ya Rabbi? Why both states? لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ, to test you. Which among you does the most beautiful of deeds? What does that mean? The most beautiful of deeds are not the deeds that happen when things go my way, or the deeds that happen in times of afflictions and calamities. And what do you mean? It's very easy to be very nice and kind and generous and beautiful when you're getting married. Of course, it's a nice occasion. And you're very generous to your wife-to-be, and you're very generous with the community, and you're smiling, right? Because what if I'm getting divorced? May Allah protect us. Can you still do good deeds? The best of deeds are the deeds that are done on the stage of afflictions. Afflictions, calamities, hard times are the stage upon which the most beautiful of deeds are to be performed. So I want us to see it this way, right? And this is what is most amazing to Ibn al-Qayyim. Now, a reminder before I start. Sometimes we have wrong premises. Some of us, we think that, you know what, if I'm religious, If I come close to Allah, Allah will protect me, which means what? I'll have peace in my life. Translated as what? There will be no trouble. Sometimes we say that on the national and international level, the Muslim Ummah is defeated. The Muslim Ummah is being slapped left and right because we're not obeying Allah. Once we obey Allah and His messengers, what do we expect? The golden age of Umar, and things will be good, and things will be... It's not true. Allah never promised us this. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Prophet Zakaria, Prophet Yahya, were they obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or not? Yes, they were both killed. Right? Ashab al-Ukhdud, the people of the ditch, they obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were all burned alive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say, if you obey me, you will encounter no trouble. However, the thing I want us to please remember this. Sailing with Allah does not mean we encounter no waves. It means I'm sailing in a boat that no wave can sink. There will be waves. There will be difficult times. Why am I connected with Allah? Because then you can surf those waves. So the assumption, if I'm close to Allah, no hardship, things are easy, anxiety is gone, fear is gone. This is the first point. Is that true? Is it true that a person like the companions, radiallahu anhu, if I'm so well connected with Allah, I should not be sad, I should not be afraid? Is that true or not? This is the first thing, right, that we have to discuss a little bit. And before I do that, I'll take us to something really interesting. I would say the following. We have emotions. We cannot sometimes control our emotions. We are not held responsible because of our emotions. I can feel sad. I can feel envy. Envy is not a good thing. Al-hasad wal-iman la yajtami'ani fi qalbi al-mu'min. Envy and faith do not go together in the heart of a believer. But what if I felt envy? It's a feeling. What if I feel sad? What if I feel angry? What if I feel... am I responsible? Unless it translates to behavior, I'm not accountable for it. Now, spirituality helps us regulate emotions. But Ya Rabbi, why the emotions? Why did you create sadness and anxiety and fear? Oh, most of us, the problem is we want to get rid of all the negative emotions, right? Who wouldn't? Do you ever want to be sad? No. Do you ever want to be anxious? No. But guess what? Emotions, including the negative ones, can shape our spirituality. What do you mean? And we'll speak more about that. Sometimes the best dua I make is the dua that I make when I'm afraid. If I allow my emotion to shape my dua, if I allow my emotions to shape my communication, that's... Allah created emotions for a reason, on a human level, and even without spirituality. What's the function of emotions? And I'll tell you something very interesting. Emotions helps us communicate. What do you mean? I'll give you an example, and those guys can attest to it. Long time ago, I used to be a TA in Cairo University. And sometimes I wasn't that nice. He can attest to that. I wasn't back in the day, I used to like to play with the students a little bit here and there, right? He remembers it. And here is what sometimes would happen. Students would come and say, the exam, the midterm exam, is it difficult? Right? They're asking a question. And sometimes I would respond as the following. The exam, it's very easy. Do you believe me? I said the exam is very easy. Why don't you believe me? You see, the way I said it, my tone, my face, shaped the communication to such an extent, it's more powerful than what I say. And the opposite. Sometimes, is the exam difficult? Yeah, the exam is very difficult. Everybody's going to fail. Yeah, okay, the exam is easy. So I want us to remember emotions. Emotions can shape the way we communicate. Sometimes you can give a khutbah, you can deliver a khutbah, you say the ayah, you say the hadith, and guess what? It is flat. And another person who's passionate, who shows emotions, he tells you the hadith, he's excited, and yeah, it makes an impact. Right? Same time, when I make dua, Ya Rabbi, please, the tone changes my dua. Emotions were there to help me communicate. Imagine a person who speaks to his wife like this. You are the most beautiful woman in the world. Yes, I love you. It's like, what? Can you imagine that? No effect? And somebody who doesn't speak, he just looks at his wife. That says it all. The emotions, it shapes communication. You see that? Emotions are necessary. Type, emotions shapes our communication. So it shapes our communication with each other. What is it in spirituality? My dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be shaped with my emotions. And we'll speak more about that. If I allow my emotions to exist, those negative emotions that I don't want, sometimes would bring the best relation, spiritual relation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if I use them correctly. Instead of getting rid of them, sometimes they're a gift from Allah. How can negative emotions be a gift from Allah? We'll see. Wallahi, sometimes it's true, but we don't see it this way, right? So it's about what? Yes, spirituality helps me regulate emotions. They don't go off hand. But also emotions help me to become more spiritual, to communicate better on a human level with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, sometimes you will laugh at this. I was speaking to this young guy, right? Again, sometimes when we're very rational, sometimes, I'm sorry, I know there is a lot of Intel people here. Engineers, yeah, we have a problem. It's too rational sometimes. It creates a problem. And I know this young man interested to marry this young girl, right? And I was asking this young man, do you find her beautiful? And he says, yeah, she's very beautiful. Me and him. And he says, yeah, I would say she's 1 in 50. So I said, yeah, 1 in 50? Please, Yabni, don't tell her this. And he said, why? 1 in 50 is such a great number. This is an amazing number. And I was like, no. It's not going to work. But hear it. So I told you, just tell me, this young man, did you in your life, did you see anybody else more beautiful than this girl? He said, no. She is the most beautiful girl I ever saw in my life. طب يا أخي, tell her that. Why are you saying then 1 in 50? He said, well, because rationally I can be biased. And I didn't see all the girls in the world. So therefore it's a problem, right? You have to put your emotions, yeah, you're top, you're 1 in 50. It's not going to work, right? Here. So emotions help me communicate. Emotions motivates. Every emotion has an urge, and we'll speak more about this. Every emotion has an urge. What is the urge of anger? When you feel angry, what is anger telling you to do? Yell, hate. Anger is about what? Retaliate, punish, right? Yell. Find who's wrong and give it to him, right? That's the urge. What about sadness? What's the urge? When you're sad, what is sadness telling me to do? Cry, and what else? Stay home. The message of sadness, don't do anything. Stay in bed. Don't do anything. You're too sad, you're like this. When I'm like this, what am I communicating to other people? I need help. What does fear tell me to do? Run. You see that? Every emotion has an urge. And we'll see today, if you respond to the urge of the emotion, it increases. It does not decrease. Right? So those are the functions of emotions: communicating with Allah, communicating to others, motivation and urge to do something. Right? This is why Allah created them. All of them are important. We're not to get rid of them. We are to regulate them. It's about emotional regulation. We want our emotions to be regulated by our internal state of being connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we'll have peace. Even if I'm sad. Yaqub alayhi salam, I was saying in the khutbah today, he was sad. He had peace with his sadness. Can I be at peace with my fear? The answer is yes, which we'll see. How can we do that, right? This is the purpose of this. And I'll give you here a very simple example to speak about fear in particular. And I would say the following. That's what I want, right? I want a garden like this. This is a beautiful garden, you agree? And like, I want my heart to have this beautiful garden inside. Can you imagine? If you have this in your backyard, are you happy? Right? Here is another person who will come and tell you, oh my God, that's a terrible garden. This is, no, I don't want this at all. It's ugly, it's bad. You say, why? He says, don't you see? He said, see what? He says, don't you see? What do you see? Ya akhi, don't you see? Look carefully. Don't you see? Don't you see? Is this a beautiful garden? What happened here? This is not as simple. This example I can use in multiple ways. I use this example in premarital therapy. I can use it in multiple. There is so many lessons here. what happened here? If I focus on one thing, I see that one thing, and I defile the whole garden with that one cockroach I saw. Then all of a sudden, I don't see the garden. What am I seeing? I'm seeing the problem. Fear does this. The first thing to know about this concept of fear. And Allah created it like this for a reason. Take a rabbit. If there is a bunny rabbit and the bushes beside him starts moving, is he going to say, well, let me see, maybe it's the wind? He will going to run. He's going to assume the worst case, right? And run, right? Emotions, the fear makes you assume the worst case. Fear is about what? Focus on the source of danger. If a lion enters in this room, what happens automatically? You will not be looking at me, or everybody is going to be looking at the lion or the bear, right? And fear lets me focus on one thing. Then it becomes dominant. I don't see anything else. Fear, fake evidence appearing real. Sometimes it's not that terrible. One cockroach in your garden is not that bad. But now, this is a real example, by the way. I learned this from my daughter, actually. When she was 11 or 12, we had this backyard, and one day she goes to the backyard. What happens? A cockroach just come by. And oh, there is a cockroach. Oh my God, where is he? And then she decides to go inside. Type, khalas, good. Next day, she goes to the backyard. What is she looking for? Is she having peace in her garden? She's sitting on the chair and her mind is telling her what? Where is he? Is he here? Is he under your chair? Is he? Oh yeah, he's here. Maybe this, maybe that. So now she's not looking at anything. She's looking at what? Where is he? And then when I enter this garden, this is the cockroach-infested garden. Is this true? No. As a matter of fact, I can take it from the opposite angle. You are not appreciating the garden. If I want ideal gardens, they don't exist. We're not in Jannah. If I want an ideal husband, he doesn't exist. If I want an ideal wife, she doesn't exist. Every man or woman, even if he's a garden like that, he has his bugs. And if I start focusing on the problem, because I'm an engineer, I'm sorry for this, because engineers are trained to do what? Solve problems. Big problem. You know that the problem is not the problem? The problem is how we talk about the problem. Research in marriage and family therapist by Gottman, 3,000 couples over 20 years, revealed something really amazing. What is it? 69% of the problems in marital relations does not get solved, including in happily married couples. We thought that happily married couples don't have problems, right? Actually, both have problems. What is the difference? The ones that are able to see, I have one cockroach, but a big garden, I have one problem, but she has so many good characters, things are good. I can still appreciate the good qualities in the presence of negative things. But the ones that are, for good reason, they're not bad. My son is taking F in math or C in math. No. He needs to take A in math. My son is not praying Fajr Salah on time. He's missing Fajr Salah. How do I speak to him? Son, you must pray Fajr. And I'm doing that because I love him. I'm doing that because what I want him to. So what I keep telling him, you know what will happen? وَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. Start to quote Quran. You're missing Salat al-Fajr. It's a fard. Did you appreciate that he's praying 4 other prayers? Did you appreciate he doesn't have a girlfriend? Did you appreciate? This is not fair. Then it becomes what? My son that doesn't pray Fajr. I'm defining my son with a problem. And you know why am I doing this? Because I'm afraid. I'm parenting out of my anxiety and fear. He's not praying Fajr. What does that mean? He'll grow up and he's going to leave Islam. Who said that? It's like that's fake evidence. But if I'm anxious from inside, the moment I see my son taking a C in an exam, I yell at him. I punish him. It's okay. It's one C in one. I'm not saying that they should take C's, by the way. The kids here, I'm not. But if I am anxious, if I have fear, I blow things out of their proportions, right? So please, let's understand this. when I'm afraid, your judgment is skewed. My judgment is skewed. Things appear not according to their true size, right? So this is the first thing. Type. And I would remind us of this. The concept I'm going to be speaking about is the following. Fear is a very real feeling. But learn this from children. Children are not afraid from darkness. Children are afraid from being alone in darkness. You get it? Darkness is not the problem. What's the problem? If I'm alone in darkness. I'm not afraid from the dark times in this life if I'm with Allah. If I feel the presence of Allah in my life and His nearness, guess what? Dark or not dark. ليلي بوجهك مشرق وظلامه في الناس جاري. A poet said this, my night with your presence in my life is illuminated, while its darkness is haunting everybody else. There is a calamity and everybody's afraid, but because I feel your presence in my life, I'm at peace. And this is what it reminds me of. If that's my pet, I'm not afraid from the bully at school. I can, right? احفظ الله يحفظك, as we'll speak later. If I guard Allah, Allah will guard me. It's a hadith. What does that mean? If I'm guarding my relationship with Allah, to feel His presence with me, Allah will guard me in difficult times. The problem is when things in the outside world veil me from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'm left to deal with them by myself. By myself, everything is scary. A cockroach is scary. I'm scared of because I'm alone. But with Allah, things are not the same. Type. I'm going to say this. The first item I'm going to deal with. Can a true believer be afraid? Because I've heard some people sometimes say, you come and a person comes, I have anxiety. Yeah, that's because you have low iman. If you had good iman, you would not be feeling anxious. If you were close to Allah, you would not feel anxiety. Now the person is anxious squared. He's anxious, and now he's anxious that Allah's upset at him. A person comes and brother, I'm sad, I'm depressed. Yeah, it's low iman. If you had good iman, you would never be depressed. Now he's depressed that he's depressed. This is called meta-emotions. How do you feel about your emotions? I don't know if you ever thought of that. Some people are afraid of depression. Some people are afraid from fear. Some people are angry when they... Or do you have healthy meta-emotions or not? And we'll speak more about this, right? So is that true? Does having a little bit of fear here and there mean that my faith is gone, I'm not a good believer? The answer is definitely not, right? First of all, and this is very important, Allah Himself says this in the Quran, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. What does this ayah say? This ayah is saying, Allah is telling us, we are the ones that are going to be testing you with a little bit of fear. Meaning what? Fear is going to happen. Fear is a guest that's going to come knocking on your door. Who's sending this guest to me? Allah subhanahu. Allah said you will face things in your life that He will come. He will knock at your door. The question is about what? What are you going to do with that guest? Are you going to follow everything he says? But the existence of fear is going to happen. So Allah's telling me before you will experience fear as a believer. And it's from me. How I deal with it is what differentiates a believer from, that's where my faith stands, right? We have examples from prophets. And you can go through the Quran, even prophets in some instances in their life, they were afraid. Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the beginning commands him to throw his stick and it turns to a snake, he was afraid and he ran away. Later on, when he went to the Pharaoh and the magician threw their sticks and they turned into snakes, Allah says, فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً مُوسَى. Musa alayhi salam felt fear, but he didn't run away this time. He kept it to himself. But he felt afraid. And then Allah told him what? لا تخف, لا تخف, إنك أنت الأعلى. He was afraid, but Allah comforted him. Right? So we have many examples in the Quran. If you look, you'll find that Dawood alayhi salam, you'll find even prophets at some instance, they felt a little bit of fear. So the existence of fear does not mean I have weak iman. It's expected. The question is, what do I deal with it? How do I deal with it? That's what we want to. Why? And this is again a very important question for me, right? What's the relation between fear and anxiety? There is a difference between fear and anxiety. What is it? Fear is a mood. I'm afraid, a few days later it's gone. Anxiety is what? Fear that persists. Sadness is different than depression. Everybody passes through a sad mood, that's normal. But what's depression? Sadness, a sad mood that does not lift. So if you open the DSM and you say, how do I diagnose depression? The first criteria, it's a mood of sadness that must have existed for longer than 14 days. If it is 7 days, that's not depression. Sadness that sticks, does not go away, persists. That is what turns into depression. Fear that does not go away, that's what turns into anxiety. How does fear translate to anxiety? Right? And this is, by the way, one statement by Ibn Hazm and Ibn al-Qayyim. They said, تأملت في مطلب أكثر العقلاء فرأيته في طرد الهم. I contemplated on what most people want in their life. Why are you saving? Why do you have a job? And they said, we found that most people, Muslims and non-Muslims, what they're after is what? To get rid, notice the word, to get rid of anxiety. That's why I have an insurance and I have a bank account and I want an anxiety. They're worried about their worries. They're worried about fear, right? They want to get rid of it. He has a cure for it that we'll say it at the end of this presentation, right? But fear is normal, anxiety is not. How do I prevent fear from turning to anxiety? How do I prevent sadness from turning into depression? What's the relation, right? Practically. And I'll show you something, again, I hope that it's easy enough for us to follow. If you look to the animal kingdom, you look to zebras, for example. Zebras, the title is, it's the title of the book, by the way, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, right? Meaning what? Animals, they have moments of real fear. You know, here is a zebra, he's grazing, things are good, things are peaceful, then all of a sudden what happens? This happens. A lion, the zebra, this is a source to be afraid of, right? That's legitimate. And he runs, and let's say, alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah, he escapes. He's fast enough, the lion couldn't catch him, right? 1 hour later, what is the zebra doing? No problems whatsoever, as if nothing happened. He's back to his peace, right? Now, if that zebra is me, right, and I experienced something that really scared me, a possible layoff in the company, but alhamdulillah, I was not laid off. 1 hour later, what am I doing? Am I at peace? No, because what? If that zebra was me, he will be thinking about what? Wow, if that lion caught me, that would have been terrible. And he starts what? Imagining. That would have felt terrible. He would have tear me. That would be very painful. That didn't happen, but he starts to what? The mind. He's thinking about it. He says, that is terrible. I must think of a way to protect myself in the future. I must analyze and find the solution. If that lion comes tomorrow, what will I do? I have to have a plan. You get the idea? It looks very legitimate, right? Okay, so I need to protect myself. If he comes tomorrow, what should I do? I think maybe I can do this. That way I can escape him. But you know, cats can climb trees. Maybe that's not a good solution. Okay, I get one of those. But you know, gas prices are going up. That's going to cause me another form of anxiety. Oh, I got the solution. Karate lessons. I'll teach him a lesson. But what if a herd comes and there is 3 or 4 of them? What will I do? How do I protect my kids? Okay, there is maybe peace treaty. Appease everybody, tell them, hey, because sometimes as nations, that's what we do. We're so afraid to say the truth. We want peace so badly, and what happens? Go to the lion and tell him, don't eat me, eat him. He's okay. He's fatter than me. Leave me alone. I'm a good zebra. I don't fight back. Leave me alone. I'll do whatever you want. But what if he betrays? And then what happens? This happens. This is how stress happens. What have you noticed here? What is the problem? The problem is that zebra is using his brain to analyze, which there is nothing bad in analysis. But have you noticed something? And this is the key, and I want us to here is what happens. A situation happens in life. So that situation, my heart feels insecure, feels the feeling of fear, the disturbance. There is layoffs coming. I'm afraid. Trump is going to be a president. Oh, bad time, or whatever, right? And I feel insecure. Then I go to my mind, and this is the link. My heart will tell my mind to do what? Figure it out. Analyze. Now sometimes my mind comes out with a solution. What happens if somebody steals my car? No, you have insurance, you'll call the insurance, you'll get another car. Oh, okay, alhamdulillah. But sometimes my mind comes back and tells me, I don't know a solution. I don't know what to do. Now, how would I feel now? I will feel more insecure. My emotions increase. Now, as my emotions increase, what my emotions will do, they will urge me to think. They will urge me, use your mind. Use your mind to do what? Think of a solution. You get the idea? So I think again, and I get to find the solution, and my mind responds, I cannot find the solution. Now I become very angry, and I start to beat myself up. I need an answer now. Why can't you find the solution? Keep thinking. And my mind responds, now I'm starting to panic. If I was to draw this correctly, and please, this is very, very important from a spiritual perspective, because this is one of the diseases, spiritual disease of the heart that we do not speak about. But in our time and age, it's prominent. And I'll tell you what it is. We start with a problem. Problems are common. Problems are common in life. But here is the problem is not the problem. The problem is that cycle. I become insecure. That's fine. I'm disturbed. I feel fear, right? Now I respond to the urge. The urge is what? Find the solution. Figure it out. Type, still okay, fine. Try to figure it out. I think a little bit. I need to know what to do. What caused this? What is the solution? What is the answer is? I can't find it. I can't find it. I become more disturbed. Try harder. I can't find it. Now I start lashing myself. You have to think about it. What are you going to do? Now I beat myself up and I still hold to the problem. Now I'm so afraid what happens? The problem is what? When I do this cycle, not for 10 minutes, not for 20 minutes, it's time to sleep, I can't sleep. It's time to pray, I can't pray. Because my mind cannot stop thinking about the problem. Do you get the idea? My mind was not designed for this by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I keep thinking and thinking and thinking and analyzing. And I want you to notice something. The more insecure I am, the more afraid I am, you think my thoughts make sense? Can I ask you a question? When I'm angry, if I'm really angry, right? The ideas and thoughts that you get when you're angry, are they rational and logical? We're commanded by the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I said it in the khutbah today. لا يقضي القاضي وهو غضبان. إذا غضبت فاسكت. Do not attempt to take any decision or rule regarding anything if you're angry. If you feel the emotion of anger, the first thing I should do is what? Suspend judgment. What do you mean suspend judgment? Don't start saying he's bad, he's good. You're colored. The emotions are taking you over. Your mind is not rational anymore. So if I attempt to think while I'm angry, I'm going to only get angry thoughts. And if I can't solve the problem, my thoughts will make me more angrier. And then my anger asks me to think more. And what happens? This. If I'm depressed, I need to find out why I'm sad. You think if I'm depressed, my thoughts are going to be happy thoughts? I'm going to remember all my mistakes and why my life is miserable. And the more I think, the sadder I'll become. I cannot think my way out of depression. I cannot think my way out of anxiety. But I'm trained in this life to do what? Analyze. Analysis is not bad. We analyze in life, right? Engineers especially, I said that. But remember, when you couple thinking with emotions and you enter in this cycle, okay, I have been thinking for 30 minutes. It's time to pray. Can you stop for a little bit? You get the idea? I need to stop. Yes, it's a problem. There is tomorrow. Can you sleep? The problem is when I'm in this cycle and I cannot stop. That's what causes the problem. I hope you understand. What is this disease? What is it called? In the spiritual realm, at-tadbir, over-planning. As a matter of fact, Ibn Ata'illah Secondary has a book called At-Tanwir fi Isqat al-Tadbir. Illumination in dropping persistent and over-planning. We want to plan, we have to know every single thing. That's impossible. Life is designed with uncertainty in it. I have to have some uncertainty. Look, sometimes I go to Egypt, and this is a true story. Found this fisherman with his boat, right? He doesn't have a good bank account. He just goes, fishes, get the fish, check by check, you know. So I asked him, what if your boat sink? What if something happens to your boat tomorrow? How are you going? And he looks, I don't know what I will do, but guess what? He's still at peace. If that was me, I'll be very disturbed. I have to have an answer. Do you get the idea? That's also a lack of reliance on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some things I can find an answer to. Can I be at peace when my mind tells me there is no answer? Can I? That's the question. Can I say, you know what? And this is the main thing. At-tadbir bin nafs. Look, planning is a part of tawakkul, right? There's a difference between planning while I'm connected with Allah. And if at the end of the day I didn't find the solution, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, I'll think again tomorrow. Now it's time to go to pray Isha in the masjid. Now it's time to play with my kids. Then when I play with my kids, I feel better. And when I feel better, if I think my thoughts are fresh, I'm more likely to get an answer. You know, my company, when we have a deadline or a chip is not working and everybody's anxious, you know what I do? I leave the company for 20, 30 minutes, go to a park nearby and have a walk and just pray a little bit, do some dhikr, why? You have a deadline, it's coming, I know. But if I disconnect and reconnect with Allah, when I go back, my mind is clearer. I can see the solution better. I have to break this cycle. The question is, how do we break this cycle, right? And again, it is this. If that zebra we spoke about says, I'm not afraid of tomorrow because I know God is already there. I'm connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Notice one thing I will say about this tadbir. When I go through this cycle, where is Allah? Do you see, is there any dua here? What is the problem here? I'm attempting to solve the problem by myself. That is a veil, literally. That veils me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Ata'illah al-Secondary says, and this is a very important statement, he says the following. When we speak about the tricks of shaitan, you know, shaitan, he wants to trick us and make us do bad things. Many of us think that the goal of shaitan is what? Is to make us disobey Allah. Correct. But Ibn Ata'illah al-Secondary noticed something really subtle. Shaitan is my enemy. You think all what he wants is to make me sin? You think shaitan wants me to be sad or not? If shaitan finds something that makes me unhappy, he will do it, right? So Ibn Ata'illah says the following. One of the ways that shaitan attacks the religious people, you know, when you see someone who's religious, he's not going to go drink, he's not going, so shaitan wants to do something to you. So one of his biggest tricks is what? Is exactly that. He throws a problem at you. And you start thinking about it. You try to bring an answer, and what does he do? What if this? What if that? Why did your boss tell you this yesterday? Why did your wife speak like that yesterday? Yeah, I need to speak to her about this. Okay. If you tell her that, she's going to say this. What are you going to say? You know, mental rehearsal? And if she says this, what are you going to say? And if she says this, what are you going to say? And I spent what? Hours and hours. He doesn't get tired. I get tired. One of the biggest tricks of shaitan, please understand this, he fries my brain. The least of it is what? I kept you 4 hours thinking about nonsense. Instead of doing dhikr or reading Quran or focusing on your prayers, yeah, you didn't do anything haram, but what have I done to you? I kept you away and your brain is cooked. You think he's not going to do this? And trust me, he does not get tired. He doesn't need to sleep. He's on. And he will throw a question after a question after what if, how about this, how about that, and I think I'm thinking, but you know what I'm doing? I'm having a dialogue with shaitan. And his purpose is what? Is not to tell you to do anything haram. Keep you in that dialogue for 4, 5, 6 hours so that you don't sleep, you're upset, you're anxious, I'm sad, I'm angry. Good enough. Good enough. I need to be able to break that cycle. That's the key. How do we break that cycle? Right? This is what we want. Especially when I feel true, intense emotions. It's true. I'm afraid of something. It's true. I'm very angry. What do? I need to be able, despite, and my anger will persist, think about it. What are you going to say? You have to do this. How do I break that urge which is so strong so that I'm not veiled by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is what we want, you know, to type. And I'm going to skip that experiment, right? And I'm going to go into a little bit of psychology, but I'm going to use this in an Islamic way, right? So they say the following, okay, the human brain, right? And this is a very simple model of the emotions. They say, and it's a very simple way to look at it. We have 3 systems in our brain. The first, they call it the motivational system, the drive system. Meaning what? The zebra needs to graze. You know the reward system, the dopamine? If you eat, you feel good. If you do this. So there is a drive system. And it's about what motivating you to do something, right? So that exists in our brain. The feelings are what? Pursue, achieve, progress, you know, all those emotions. That's a system in my brain. There is another system that Allah designed for my own goodness. We call it, you know, the amygdala. It's the lower part of the brain. We call it the threat system. What is a threat system? A threat system is designed by Allah for what? It detects threats and acts in a way that makes me safe. The threat system, when it's activated, it's better safe than sorry. Assume worst case. Again, this bunny rabbit, if he sees the bushes around him move, he's going to do what? Run. Worst case, focus, there is no time to analyze. If the threat system gets activated, the first thing it does, shut the prefrontal cortex. No analysis, you act. That's why when I'm very afraid, you run, you don't think twice, right? So when the threat system is activated, the purpose is what? Safety, safety. Assume worst case and run away, right? The response is either fight, flight, or freeze, right? It's very common. So that's that system. Now when that system gets triggered by many things, sometimes it's external, sometimes it's Fox News, sometimes it's work, sometimes there is bullying at school. There are many things that today, unfortunately, especially if you watch media, which, have you ever watched news and everything is great? We had, this neighbor was nice to his neighbor. No, that neighbor killed his neighbor. Why do they focus on the negative, by the way? It takes one Muslim to do one dumb act and it's on CNN. Headlines. Why is that? Because they've noticed system. They noticed something. That threat system, remember, if there is a danger, the threat system tells you what? Focus on the danger, right? So if I'm a news station and I want to grab your attention, this is how I make my dollars, right? I want you to watch me more. What type of news should I do that gets me the highest watch rates? A terrorist attack in Portland, Oregon. The mosque is involved. Everybody's like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And have you ever found yourself doing this? And you sit in front of the news station and you watch it again and again and again. The threat system is activated, it focuses, it cannot unlock, and the way sometimes society is designed, it focuses on the threat system. Now, if you go to the animals, and again, this is that system. When the threat system is activated, which is what we want to speak about, how do you deactivate that? There is something called the soothing system. What is the soothing system? And again, I'll try to give it to you with like an animals, right? So the drive system, if you go to the zebra, 30% of his time he's doing this. 2% of his time he's running. This doesn't happen, maybe 1%. But what does he do most of his time? If you have cats, they play a little bit, they eat, right? Sometimes they run. Most of their time they're doing what? What is this green system? The soothing system. You know when you sit and things are okay, and you just, the contentment, rida, you're happy, right? That is called, this soothing system regulates the threat system. Now what's the problem? If I ask you draw your 3 circles, in life, how are your 3 circles? You'll find this is the situation. Most of my time, I'm here. I'm thinking about the problems, and I finish one problem to go to the second. You finish the second, you go to the third. You finish the third, and that is, by the way, how marital relation goes south. I cannot step from one problem, and it's for good reason. I want my marriage to be better. Ya akhi, focus on the garden. Leave the cockroach alone for now. Deal with him next week. Can you enjoy the garden? No, no, no. And we get rid of the cockroaches, the spiders. Then after the spiders, it's the bees. And after the bees, it's the... Problems don't end. So if I do not have soothing, I cannot regulate this system, right? Now, how does that translate to us? How do we soothe ourselves? This soothing system, what activates it? For mammals, especially, like us being one of them, if a cat is afraid and you want to comfort the cat, what do you do? If my son comes running to me, Baba, there is a monster in the closet. How do you comfort your son? Do you tell him, listen, there is no monsters? Or your son comes to you running, I got hurt, look, I'm bleeding, and he's crying. Be a man, stop crying. It's not going to comfort him. How do we comfort our children? You give them a big hug. You know what the soothing system is about? Attachment. The brain is designed to cool down, calm down. Anxiety reduces when I attach to another figure. They did an experiment. And again, some psychologists are cruel. I know that. They got this man and they put him in an MRI machine, right? And they said, we're going to give you an electric shock. You don't know when it's coming and it's going to be painful. And he's sitting, you know, like, it's... So of course, the brain, you know, the fear sent the amygdala's flashing left and right. The guy's afraid, he's scared, it's going to come, right? And he doesn't know when. And the brain is flashing, right? Okay, fine. They bring another person, tell him the same thing. But this time, they ask his wife or his mother to hold his hand. Guess what happens? Can you guess the result? The wife is outside the experiment. Now, for some people, if his wife is there, it will be worse. Anyway, this is good. True. Because if my dad is a source of anxiety, he's going to judge me. His presence will cause more anxiety. You see that? But a proper attachment system. If somebody that I love is holding my hand, what happens? Did you solve the problem? No, I did not solve the problem. You're going to still get the electric shock. Why are you calm? Because the brain is designed, and like this, wallahi, they say this. The brain, they don't say, the scientists, they don't say the brain is created. They're arrogant. The brain is set up to be calmed down in reaction to compassion and kindness. We have an attachment system. This attachment systems, when we attach to a proper attachment figure, it calms down the threat system. And you saw it in a human level. If a human that I love is holding my hand, though the problem is still there, I'm okay. Why do you think in Islam we tell people visit the sick? Visiting the sick, is it rewarded by Allah? You can give a khutbah or like about the rewards of visiting the sick people. And I'm going to ask you this question. If somebody's sick, why do you visit them? Are you a doctor? Are you going to make them feel better? Can you cure their disease? No. Why are you visiting? From a functional perspective, what's your function? You're going to go there, do what? Sit, do what? How are you helping them? Because we know the human being, as much as they need the cure, they need something else. They need to feel, I'm understood, I'm seen, I'm heard. They need to attach. Severing an attachment bond is a major source of trauma. If I'm facing a calamity and I'm by myself, like that son, it's traumatic. My brain is designed that I need comfort. I need someone to hold me. You know, Aisha radiallahu anha in Hadithat al-Ifk, when people accuse her of whatever they accuse her of, you know, it's a slander, that she committed this and that, and she was so distressed. People are saying this is anxiety provoking, your honor is at stake, nobody believes you, people think that you're this, and she's crying day and night. And she remembers, if you read the hadith, one woman came to visit Aisha. And what did she do? How would you call, you know what she did, this woman? She sat down and kept crying with Aisha. And then she left. She didn't solve the problem, did she? What did Aisha radiallahu anha need at this time? Sometimes I don't need that you solve the problem. Should I use this? Sometimes my need is what? Is for someone to see me. This is why, again, in marital relationship, sometimes when my son or my wife or my husband, and they come and they start complaining, you know, like, I can't believe it. My best friend today, she didn't speak to me. I said salam and she didn't. And as a husband, what am I doing in my head? I don't want my wife to be upset. Actually, I don't have space for her. If the person I love is upset, if my daughter tells me my best friend was bullying me at school, I don't want to see my daughter crying. I don't want to see her crying because I can't take it. I love her. I do not want to see her cry. So I'm immediately going to tell her here's what you need to do. Tomorrow, I'm attempting to give her a solution. It's coming from a good place. But what does my daughter need? Can you hear me? Can you make space for me? Can you let me cry? Can you hug me? Can you sit with me? You see that? That's what I need. This is how I call the threat system. Not through a solution. It's what? This bond. I can get that from a human being. It works well. But in a human being, that soothing system was not designed only to be soothed by human beings. It was designed to be soothed by what? A bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The best way to regulate, especially the threat system, is having a bond and attachment with Allah, the source of all peace. Now, how do I do this from a practical perspective? I have maybe 15 minutes, so what are the steps? Something happens in my life, I'm anxious. Something happened in my life, I enter through the cycle. Tell me what to do. Number one, awareness. I must be able to detect that I went to the cycle. The problem is, I start doing this, a week later, why am I so anxious? You have been 1 week you're doing this. The first step is what? Awareness. Am I going through the cycle or not? Is this happening or not? I must, what we call muraqaba. I'm watching the intensity of my emotions. If I find myself doing this, thinking and thinking and overthinking and thinking, and I say, oh, I know what I'm doing. I've entered into this cycle, I'm veiled from Allah, I need to break it. Just awareness is very important. Most of us are not aware. Most of us, those things are autopilot. That's the problem. And then after a week, we're stressed. Of course, some people, they've been doing this for a year. Of course you're miserable. You lost peace in your heart. So the first thing is to detect this cycle. How do I break it? Let's be effective. Right? Step number one. Right? And by the way, all the things I'm going to tell you, they have to be practiced in the time of ease. I give this example. Seat belts are good, right? If somebody tells you, you know what, I'm not going to use the seat belt. When I see an accident going to happen, I'm going to put the seat belt. You have to put the seat belt every single day. So when an accident is about to happen, you're already trained, right? So whatever I'm going to share with you is not to be practiced when I'm afraid. It should be practiced every single day. So when I enter into that cycle, it's ready for me, right? Type. What's number one? And this we learn from many scholars and many tabi'een, but like one person in particular I looked at some of our early predecessors that were known to be very courageous. Like when it comes to fear, they are like just one of the best people. One of them is Amir ibn Abdullah al-Tamimi. And that was a person that memorized Quran, used to worship Allah, but also was a soldier. And in the battlefield, everybody would want to fight by him. He was so courageous that one time it's narrated there was a lion, passing by and obstructing people, and Amir ibn Abdullah, and he was on a mount, he went to the lion, brought him by his ear and said, go seek your provision somewhere else. And people said, aren't you afraid? He said, I'm afraid of nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How? Now, here is the secret of Amir ibn Abdullah. You look at his dua, and this is extremely, extremely important. This is step number one to break the cycle. How? This is one way. Of his dua, he used to say the following: إلهي خلقتني بقدرتك وأقمتني في بلايا هذه الدنيا بأمرك ثم قلت لي استمسك كيف أستمسك إن لم تمسكني أنت يا قوي يا متين. Dear Lord, you created me with your power. You established me in the life of this world with all its tribulation, and you told me, hold tight. How can I hold tight if you do not hold me, O most powerful, most strong? What is Amir ibn Abdullah's dua? Going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with my emotions. His secret is the following, and this is extremely important. Whatever emotion I feel, number one, take it to Allah. Take it to Allah. Now, a problem is, many of us think, no, I'm a good believer, yani, should not be afraid. Allah sees I'm afraid. So if I feel fear, what should I do? I go to Allah and say, Ya mu'min, man lil khaif suwak. Oh, the granter of safety. Who is for the one that's afraid but you? Allah has names. Asma al-Jalal wa Asma al-Jalal. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Al-Kareem, the most merciful. We love those names. We know how to, if Allah gives me, I'm thankful, right? We know them. What about the other names of Allah? Like what Al-Aziz, the Almighty, like what Al-Qadir, like what Al-Qahhar. Those names, I worship Allah through their opposite. Meaning what? Look, I'll say it this way. So if Allah's the Almighty, I'm what? If Allah's the most rich, I'm the most needy. So the dua is the following. Ya Qawi, man lil da'if suwak. Ya Aziz, man lil dalil suwak. Ya Ghani, man lil faqir suwak. So I endorse my characteristic. If I feel afraid, if I feel sad, I go to Allah immediately and say, yes, Ya Allah, without you, I am nothing. If I'm afraid of an enemy, Ya Qawi, man lil da'if suwak. If I feel helpless, Ya Qadir, man lil ajiz suwak, oh most capable, who is for the most incapable but you? I take the emotion I'm feeling and I go and I run to Allah with it and invoke the name which is the opposite of my emotion. Do you get it? And completely endorse it and allow my emotion to shape my dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be very true and vulnerable with Allah. That regulates my emotion. If you run to Allah and say, if my son runs to me, Baba, I'm scared, and he's crying, what's the natural response? I'll give him a big hug. I see, if you run to Allah with fear, He will grant you safety. If I run to Allah with my helplessness, He will cover me with His strength. تحقق بأوصافك يمدك بأوصافه. تحقق بعجزك يمدك بقدرته. تحقق بضعفك يمدك بقوته. Establish your true nature with Him, and He will cover you with His strength. Establish your poverty, and He will cover you with His richness, with Him. Establish your helplessness, and He will cover you with His ability. Whatever emotion I feel, before analyzing, what do? Take it to Allah. Do not go into that cycle before first linking with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But because I'm worried, because I'm terrified, it's time to make dua. Right, so that's number one. Type. What happens if the cycle is so strong and the emotions are so intense that I cannot break it? I'll give you a very practical advice here. So neuroscientists, they did this experiment and they said the following. You know this brain of ours? They said the brain cannot retain a thought if it focuses on two physical senses. What does it mean? You know when you're thinking of something and your son makes a noise around you, what do we do? Shh, 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 right? Because I can't focus. They said, we've noticed something. So if the brain gets focused on two physical senses, it cannot retain a thought. If I want to break my cycle, therefore, I need to focus on two physical senses. Psychologists, they will use the breath. They tell you breathe in, breathe out, feel the ground under your feet. You know the techniques of mindfulness. I don't have time to go into that, which works. From an Islamic perspective, there is another way. And that's in the Quran. أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبُ. With the remembrance of Allah, the heart feels calm. But ya akhi, when I'm upset and I try to read Quran, it doesn't help. When I'm afraid and I try to do dhikr, it doesn't help. People will tell you that. Why? You know why? Because we did not discuss how to do it. What do you mean how to do it? Okay, I'll give you an example. So dhikr, ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب, right? طيب. Say لا إله إلا الله. طيب. لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله. Where is my mind? Still in the problem. And لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله. Where is the emotions? It's not shaped by any emotions. What are you focused on? Nothing. It's not going to help. It's good, alhamdulillah. But I want you to notice this difference. A person who's saying لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله, versus a person and please excuse me, right? I'm just going to like animate it a little bit, right? Let's say I'm scared of something, and I want the determination and strength to do it, right? So I start saying out loud. Notice, focus on what the sense is. I just don't say it, I say it out loud, and I say it with full breath. An example. لا إله إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. Does it make a difference? If I say it this way for 5 minutes, you think it's going to change my mood? See how I animated this? Right? And you can say dhikr different ways. The key, I have to say it out loud. Remember the two senses? You can close the windows in your car, because I think if you say Allahu Akbar, people will like, right? So I be mindful of you. Don't walk into a mall and say, la, people will call the 911 immediately, right? We're not in a Muslim country, so be mindful. But I need to be saying dhikr out loud. And the way I see it, I animate it. And it depends what I want from my dhikr. It's very powerful to say dhikr this way. Same thing with Quran. You want Quran to break the cycle? Read it out loud. Focus on tajweed. Read with 6 harakas. Because you know the breath in and out, your brain cannot retain any thought if you read in Quran this way. I sit down, put Sheikh Abdul Basit, and I blast. 15 minutes. So therefore, it's my daily word. I have to read Quran out loud. While even if you don't understand, focus on the tajweed rules. Because that I'm focused on my ghunna, on your brain. My brain cannot retain any thought if I'm doing this. Let alone the spiritual benefits of the Quran. I need therefore a relation with the Quran, a relation with dhikr. So when I detect this cycle, I stop and I go physically I change my physiology. And wallahi, you cannot retain a thought if you do this at all. So this is a very powerful way of doing this. What is another way? And I think I have to stop maybe after this. What's another way? How do I break this cycle? Connecting with righteous people. وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتْ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. The biographies of righteous people. Being with righteous people brings calmness to the heart. So instead of sitting at home thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking, stop. Go to the masjid. Sit in a halaqah. Meet with people. Tell them salam. Just be in their company. وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. The Quran says that. Sometimes being in the existence of people connected with Allah rubs on me. So my anxiety and my sadness will tell me, don't go to the masjid, sit, solve the problem. Okay, because I'm doing this, opposite action. The third way, you do the opposite of what the emotion tells you. And this is in psychology, you call it opposite action, in behavioral psychology. And I said it in the second khutbah today. Basically, a very interesting thing. If I want to regulate any emotion, look at what the urge of the emotion is and do the complete opposite of it. If I'm depressed and sad, do I want to recover? Yes. Sadness is telling me what? Stay in bed. Don't go out. What should I do? Because I'm sad. Because I want to stay in bed. What should I do? The opposite. If I'm afraid from something, I'm afraid from a bully, do you want to conquer your fear? Do you want to regulate your fear? What's the solution? Speak out. Opposite action. I'm angry. Do you want to lower your anger? Yes. Anger tells me what? Speak out, lash out. What should I do? Suspend judgment, go out, have a walk. Don't speak to that person. That's the only way to calm down. The ability to do the opposite action. In case of fear, I need that. Fear tells me think, think, think. If I detect I'm afraid, I have to stop thinking. Fear tells me don't do, run away. No. I need the opposite. Fear tells me stay at home, don't go to the masjid. I need the company of righteous people. The company of righteous people. Where are they? They're in the masjid. Also, reading the biography of righteous people. Now I gave this talk about Salah ad-Din. Wallahi, you read the biography of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, and it brings firmness to the heart. You feel it, you gain from them. connecting with righteous people is definitely a source of peace, right? I'll give a third one. So what did we say? Be with the righteous, right? 2, be with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions. Read the biography of righteous people daily, not one. A regular word, regularly, Safat al-Safwa, the companions. Live with them. I can literally live with them. This is important for peace. The third, be with creation in dhikr. One of the best way to activate this green system, the creation of, and you have a beautiful, mashallah, creation here. Practical exercise, every day, 10 minutes, 15 minutes walk in nature. No cell phones, don't speak. What am I doing? Dhikr. Basically, everything, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. Everything around me, all the trees here are doing dhikr. All the birds are doing dhikr. I go and I start what? Let me be in dhikr too. And I look at things around me, look at the beauty. Look at the trees, look at the birds, who's providing for them, look at the bees, look at the ants, look at what Allah created. Everything is praising Him. Everything here, Allah is in control of. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. There is no change of state, nor power except by the permission of Allah. لا حول عن المعصية ولا قوة على الطاعة إلا بإذن الله. I cannot stop doing something that's haram or do something that's good except by the power of Allah. And that's how I say it. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. بالله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. And then you say Allah. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. Allah. لا إله إلا الله. Can you imagine having a walk like this? I get peace that way. ألا بذكر الله تطمئن القلوب. طيب, there are other things, but I think I'm going to stop here. Maybe we can discuss them another time. So, what have we said? The most important thing. Emotions are there for a reason. Fear is there for a reason. If I feel fear, 1, stop the cycle. Stop over-planning. How? Take it to Allah. I go to Allah and say, Ya Rabbi, I'm afraid. And I speak and I communicate and I shape my dua with my fear. This is number 1. Number 2, if I'm in that cycle, Quran out loud, dhikr out loud, helps me break that cycle. It's essential to do that. Number 3, protective measures. Be with righteous people. Have a daily word of reading about righteous people. 3, get into the nature more. Do dhikr in nature. It's calming to the human being. I can calm myself through my attachment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I cannot be at peace if I'm not close to the source of peace. I must never allow any problem in this life to be a veil between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Problems are intended to reveal Allah more to me. I take my problems to Him. I don't let my problem to veil me from Him. I can never be patient or solve my problem by myself. I have to take it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And I'm going to stop here, and I don't know if it's time for Maghrib or not, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. Everybody enjoyed the talk. We have 10 minutes to Maghrib. We can take maybe 1 or 2 questions, inshallah. There is mic here for the sister side, and there is mic on the brother side. I think, Mu'adh, you have a question?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Barakallah feek for the talk. I had a question about the 3 systems that you had pictured. You mentioned how animals spend a lot of their time in the soothing system, whereas we will spend a lot of time in that threat system. It would be nice to live the majority of our lives in the soothing system, but all of us have either work or school and family and projects and a million things that we have to attend to the point where sometimes, at least for me, it feels like even when it's finally time to relax, I'm so accustomed to always being on the go that I'm trying to find the next problem. And it's very hard to finally kind of just relax a bit. Yeah. So do you have any advice for that?
Yes. First of all, I'll give you a practical example. I have a problem at work, right? And I'm sitting trying to solve it, literally, right? And it's important. I tell myself the following. Do you really want to solve the problem? The answer is what? Yes. Go pray. Go pray, because praying is going to help me solve the problem. Do I have an issue I'm working on, maybe with my wife? Yes, I have. Don't you want to solve your problems, right? And this is going to be the talk of tomorrow of tawakkul, right? The problem is solved in two ways. By analysis, which is what we're... Do you think if I do some dhikr, or I give sadaqah, or I go to the masjid, Allah's not going to help me with my problem? You get the idea? I'm at work sometimes and I'm debugging a circuit and I can't find the answer. This thing is not working. I'm spending 3 days and I cannot figure it out. We know that sometimes the answer comes when you're not even thinking about it. You might be having a shower and, oh, the idea came. Where did it come from? It came from Allah. And you know what? The idea is always there. But I'm veiled from it. Allah's trying to help me, but I'm not letting Him in. So the answer to your question, I tell myself, because I have problems, I need to guard the time with Allah. And I'll be fair to you. Can you give me 1 to 10? 1 to 10, what does it mean? So I'm at work, right? I have to work, 8 hours a day. 1 to 10. Can you give me 30 minutes of dhikr in the day? So you're working 8 hours. You think 8.5 is too much? That's what I'm asking. Give me 1 to 10. For every 1 hour I'm thinking about the problem, can you give me 10 minutes with Allah? It's doable. But you know what? Shaitan makes us, you don't have time. Says who? And I'll be very honest with you. This, I don't have any time. I'm always working on that's the problem. I'm always here. Can I tell you something and just be honest? Most of the time we're not only here. You know how we deal with this? Distraction. Get the cell phone out, let me play some games. Let me watch a Netflix. Is it true or not? I have time for Netflix, and you know why it works? Because it's distraction. I'm just what? Distracting myself and reward, eat, get some ice cream. Wallahi, isn't it true? Overeating and eating disorders are this way. I have some threat, and I need to deal with it, and I just activate this system. I'm not asking you to put 1 hour to 1 hour. And those things are sunnah anyway. Isn't it sunnah to pray 5 times a day? But how do I pray? That's the question. Isn't it sunnah that after salah I should say 5 minutes in dhikr? That's what I'm asking you to do. Isn't it sunnah that in the morning and the evening I have 10 minutes of adhkar al-sabah wal-masa? Isn't it sunnah to read Quran half an hour a day? Is it really and you think by doing this I'm not going... And I'll quote one hadith I was keeping. Look, and this is very powerful, which is actually what Ibn al-Qayyim says. You know when he said most people want to repel anxiety? Right? And what is the cure? He says, فَرَأَيْتُهُ فِي صِدْقِ التَّوَجُّهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى. You want to repel anxiety? There is a hadith. مَنْ جَعَلَ الْهَمَّ هَمًّا وَاحِدًا كَفَاهُ اللَّهُ سَائِرَ هُمُومِهِ. What does it mean? Whoever makes his concerns and fear one, Allah will suffice him all other concerns and fears. What do you mean? You know what's the best way to fight fear? Fear. What do you mean? If I'm afraid, oh, there is a cockroach in the room and there is a mosquito, and I tell you, wait, there is a mountain lion right over there. What happens? Once I focus on the mountain lion, I don't see those things. They're immaterial. There is a lion in the room, man. What are you speaking about? I forget about everything. Forget about all my problems. Because there is a lion in the room. There is the angel of death waiting for me. There is hellfire and Jannah. There is something to worry about. So this hadith is saying what? Whoever is tawheed, whoever makes his concerns and fear one fear, is Allah happy with me or not? Am I doing well or not? Allah promises, I will suffice him everything else. And the opposite. You make Allah at the end and you're worried about everything else and not Allah. What happens? I'm scattered. And I won't find the solution. Right? So I know shaitan tells us you don't have time. There is so many problems. If I'm with Allah, He suffices me. And that's what I need to do. Because I have problems, I need to go to Allah. It's a part of the solution. And we'll see that tomorrow, inshallah.
So you mentioned a dua on the slide where you had the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon there.
Yes.
So can you show that slide?
I'll repeat the dua.
Or say the dua.
This one. Yes. So this dua is from Ibn Ata'illah Secondary, and he says the following. Yeah, and he invokes the name of Allah and then his reality, right? And if you understand it, it's very powerful. And those are the names he used. Ya Qawi. Ya Qawi. Oh, most powerful, most strong. You know, this is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Ya Qawi. Man للضعيف سواك. Oh, most powerful, who is for the most weak but you? Ya Aziz, the almighty, all noble. Man للذليل سواك. I'm the most humiliated. Ya Qadir, oh, most capable. Man للعاجز سواك. Ya Ghani, oh, most rich. Man للفقير, most poor but you. So I endorse my weakness. I endorse my feeling. And I go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the proper name for it. If I'm afraid, Ya Mu'min, granter of safety. Man للخائف سواك. I go to Allah and say, yes, Ya Rabbi, I am afraid. Like Amr ibn Abdullah. If you do not hold me firm, how can I hold firm? Of course I'm afraid. I'm a human being. I need you. So I take my emotions and go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with it. That's the dua. Right? One thing is, which I didn't say, this slide. When I insist on resisting emotions, they persist. If I have, and I don't want to feel fear at all, I need to push it away. Well, guess what will happen? You will be even more afraid. On the contrary, if I say fear is a part of life, right? If I make space for it, okay, I'm afraid. Mr. Fear, come here, sit there, but I continue to do the right thing despite my fear. I'm not going to respond to the urge. Let fear be. Don't be afraid of it. Just oppose it. Don't do what it tells you to do, but host it. And this is what the scholars said. Fear is but a guest of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will come knocking your door. Host it well, and it will leave when it's time for it to leave, and it will praise you to the one who sent it, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So learning to make space for emotions is very important. You know, أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ? The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam faced many, many negative things. What was the cure? Allah opened his chest for him. Meaning what? We've made your chest so vast that despite you have space for them. So the problems are there, but I have enough space. Sharh al-sadr. And this is what dhikr and Quran and everything else does. Wallahu ta'ala khair. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Jazakallah khairan. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow at Bilal at 7. But there are other programs as well. They are on the website, on WhatsApp, and shared by Cool Islam and Bilal and ICCH, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan. We're going to stand up for Maghrib. I think we're going to clear just enough chairs for the brothers to pray.